gonna talk about how to sell like crazy doing this one thing. And what is that one thing? That's what we're gonna answer today. Okay. So if you guys have any questions, and I'm gonna be monitoring the chat, please type them in there. We'll answer them at the end. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because if you guys remember, we've done a few classes about how do you come across on social media? What are some of the important things that you need to make sure that you're doing when it comes to email marketing, when it comes to social media, when it comes to doing all of these other ways to market your business, right? So sometimes people like to do too much and they think that nothing works. So that's why we're doing this. And in this class, we're going to discover how to stop scattering your energy across every marketing tactic and instead focus on the one thing that's going to work for you. So we're going to learn how to master that one thing, how to create this invisible funnel around it, and use a follow-up system to turn interest into consistent sales without needing to be everywhere, post every single day. It's all about creating the right connection, right? And it's not about spending your money to the Meta Foundation, I call it, with Mark Zuckerberg or with X or LinkedIn or whatever you're doing ads. It's more about trying to focus on that one thing. So let's start with the let's start with what is it that we're doing, right? So if you sell a product or a service, the fastest way to sales isn't doing everything at once, okay? Most businesses try to be everywhere. They're posting on every platform, they're chasing every lead source, and they still struggle with inconsistent sales. And that's because they're not focused, okay? So we're going to learn how to choose that one strategy that will work for you, how to master it, and how to follow up correctly, okay? Now, what is this invisible funnel? Well, it looks different for everybody because it's the path to purchase from whatever it is that you're selling, whether you're selling like Dr. Lambert had mentioned ideas, whether you're selling advice, whether you're selling coaching, whether you're selling an actual product, is your path to purchase, even if you've never mapped it out from the first touch to sale. But once you lay it out, it's specifically to you. And a funnel, it really begins to, as you can see in this image, right? Where a lot of things go in there in the funnel and all of a sudden you're getting money. Well, this is kind of like where it goes. So you have to choose what is it that is going to go through the funnel. So for example, is it going to be social media? Is it going to be images or videos or focusing more on Google Business profile because that's the name of your business, right? On when people are looking for it on Google. So it's from going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. So it could look like, for example, finding you on social media, then you're sending them a DM, right? A direct message so that they can get in touch with you, then getting them to book a call, and then sending them information so that they can make the payment. So that's a funnel that not everybody has laid out, but that's kind of like how it works for some people. If you're selling products, in the marketplace, it's obviously going to look different. You have to have people come to your location. How do you bring people into your location? Well, maybe you want to do an ad so that they come and they see you on Instagram. Or maybe you want to send them an email from the plumber down the street who is sending emails to their audience. So that's a funnel, right? We send an email, you're giving them an offer, 50% off of a specific product, and then they come in. So an invisible funnel doesn't have to have specifically being on the internet, but it's your path and it's your way of doing things so that you can track exactly what it is that you're doing. And why most businesses fail? Because there's too many taxes without ever mastering one. They're trying to do too much at the same time, and the keyword here is at the same time. So there are a lot of ways to make $1 million, right? But if you do everything at once, you're going to be like this guy that's trying to carry everything with him, and that's not going to work. You have to master one way and then go into another one. I'm going to give you some case studies at the end so that you can kind of see how that looks like. And so the goal is to have a very clear system that gets you in front of the right people and moves them toward buying. And it sounds really like weird for me to say it this way because it sounds so simple, but it's basically what it is. Getting a clear system and doing that over and over again so that it can put you in front of the right people. And then you're going to tell me, well, what does that even mean? Right? What is this system that you're telling me about? And this is where it begins. First, we need to know our market before we choose to do that one thing. So, who is our ideal customer? Who is our ideal client? And I'm going to give you some examples. Even if you sell the same thing as your competitors, you're different than them. So, like for example, there's a lot of different types of software and different types of tutors out there that teach different languages, right? So you have this Duolingo thing, right, where people are going in every single day and they're completing their 5 minute type lesson, and they have streaks of like 100 days or 250 days or something like that. Then you have tutors that actually go to your house, and they are actually sitting down with you and they're teaching you another language, right? So the ideal customer for somebody who is tutoring for languages is going to be very different than somebody who has the app on their phone with Duolingo learning a different language. So you need to understand who is your ideal customer and what are they expecting, right? Because if you don't understand that, then it's going to be very difficult to sell them anything. So these are some of the questions that you can ask them. Where do they spend their time online and offline? And this is important because, like I said, if you don't understand what they do and what are some of their needs and their fears and their problems and their wants and what does their day look like, then you're not going to be able to sell. How do they make buying decisions? There's a lot of different types of buyers. Some of them include the four types of buyers, which are um, the spontaneous, the ones that are rely on impulse. So, for example, this is someone who, if they see at the airport, in TSA, there's something called clear, which is you buy kind of like uh, the service so that you can go through the line faster. So that's basically impulse because they don't want to wait in line. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna buy the clear thing and I'm just gonna go through security, right? So that's a very, very impulsive and spontaneous buyer. The second one is more the humanistic. They want to understand what is the human touch with someone else. Like they're the very research heavy people that really want to know how does it relate to people. Then you have people who are very methodical. They also do research, but in a different way. They're the ones who are very methodical about understanding everything that comes in it. They look at all of the information. They frequently ask questions. They attend every webinar. They do research when it comes to products. How does it work? How do you install it? Does it really work? All of these things are important for the methodical. And then we have the last minute, the ones that right before the deadline, whatever the deadline is, whether it's a birthday party for one of your son's friends, that you have to run to Target to buy a gift, right? How many of you are parents that you all of a sudden forget that you need to go buy a birthday gift, and then you have to run to Target because it's the last minute, right? Or I'll send something on Amazon overnight. So those are your competitive buyers. So how do they make buying decisions, whether it's impulse versus research heavy? And these are just four types that I've mentioned, right? So the spontaneous, the humanistic, the methodical, and the competitive. So these are four types of buyers that I've mentioned, but of course there's a lot more types of buyers if you follow different frameworks, right? So they can also be based on different personality tests and characters. But understanding basic buying decisions is really going to help you to know how to choose that one thing. Now, another way that you can do this research to understand them is customer interviews and surveys. Even if you haven't sold anything, who are your potential customers and how can you go out to interview them and find out more about them so that you know exactly how they are, how they make buying decisions and understand them. And now with AI, there's so much we can do, right? Because we can ask AI what type of person is most prone to buy this type of product or this type of service. Now, I would definitely want to corroborate that information because obviously AI could make mistakes. So don't just rely on AI, but it's a great way to really understand how do we get someone to buy what I want? Well, we need to do the research into who is that person And just one person, guys. A lot of times when I'm meeting with clients, I ask them about their competitors. I ask them about who is their target audience, and they say, well, anyone. And it's not anyone. It's not anyone. You need to be very specific. A lot of times I give them the advice of writing the diary of your target audience in their language. So like for example, sit down and write here, grab a notebook and write, Dear Diary, today was a beautiful day in the desert. If I am obviously writing the diary of my target market, it was very hot. The weather was, you know, was beaming. So it was a great way to get out there for a few minutes and then come back inside. So little things like that is going to help you to think like them. Okay. And again, now with AI, there's a lot that we can do. And then observing in relevant communities or marketplaces. So if you sell something similar, than your competitors. Let's say you're into like you have a storefront at the mall and you want to understand kind of like the questions that people are asking. Well, become a customer and go to the marketplace and go to your competitors' stores and ask the questions and listen to how people are interacting. That is going to help you choose that one thing that is going to create this invisible funnel so that then you can move ahead and be able to sell in a better way. And you can use tools like Answer the Public, Google Trends, and competitor analysis to really understand that. But this is really the most important time to be able to see how can you serve in the best way. And now, why this step saves you time, money, and frustration? It's very important, guys. This is the key to success because if you don't understand who is your target market, then how are you going to sell to them? If you don't understand that right now in the United States, there's these injections, right, for diabetics that make you lose weight. And there's a lot of dietitians out there that are losing a lot of business. If they don't understand that this is happening and they're going to have to pivot, then they're going to lose a lot of money because they need to bring this up and they need to understand who their target audience is in order for them to serve them. Do we have any questions so far? And if you guys do, you can just put them in the chat. Also, while you're putting things in the chat, if you have your own business and you have questions about how do I market my own thing, or I have a supermarket, in Nigeria or whatever. What are some of the things that I can do? Or you're in the political space. I know that, with some of the students you guys have told me before. So if something comes to mind, make sure you write it in the chat so that I can take a look at it and we can go through it. But this is the step number 3, knowing your market before choosing your one thing that you're going to do is going to save you frustration. Now, we talk a lot about what is that one thing. And this is really the time that I'm going to talk a lot about so many different sources for revenue. What does that mean? Well, in the previous class, we talked about different types of businesses and what you can do to be able to get business from anything that you do or that you sell. So these are some examples, okay? If any of this rings a bell, keep it in your mind, okay? Because I'm going to be throwing at you a million things. And this is where we have to pay attention. So if you're doing anything else, this is where I really need you to come back to me so that this stays with you. This is the most important part. Choosing your main lead source. We're going to choose one of these because if you choose all of them, you're going to do nothing with it. So for example, if you have services, if you do services like financial advisors or let's say marketing agencies, translation services, um, anything with the computer developers, there's a lot of different marketplaces like Upwork, Fiverr, Bark, Thumbtack that are full of freelancers. And there is a science to succeeding in these different marketplaces that you need to get started with reviews. Once you get started with reviews, then they invite you to different types of jobs. And that really sets you apart from everybody because you don't have to do much work. The work is coming to you. Now, if you're selling products, Etsy is one of the best places, Amazon, of course, and there's also wholesale options like Faire. But this is choosing your own type of lead source. So out of all of these, we're going to go through all of them, and I'm sure there's more. Like if you, for example, if you have deals or you have offer sites, so like, for example, Groupon or Living Social, and I've seen so many things on Groupon, like, for example, for experiences. So there are people that are making a living with Groupon, just putting things out on Groupon and doing offers, like for example, spas and medical, like medical spas, like massages, nail salons, things like that, even restaurants. There's also attraction, like I recently took my kids over to a water park and they had a Groupon on it. People are always checking on Groupon things to do, so it's a great way to use that and utilize that. Okay. And I'm checking the chat as we go. Now, another way to do this, if you do this all day, every day, is social media direct outreach, which is Instagram DMs. These are DMs are direct messages, Facebook Messenger, LinkedIn messages, and there's people that are making a living just using this specific lead sources. So they're focusing on just that one thing. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to go in and spam everybody. That's not the point. The point is to create conversations, okay? When you're using this lead source. Like, for example, hi, how are you? Just saw your post. It's very interesting. Where you're from? What are some of the things that you're doing with your clients? Get to know them so that you can actually then say, oh, if you have this problem, well, guess what? I have something that could help you. So this is part of the attraction marketing class that we went over a few months ago. So you can go back and rewatch that. But this is a great lead source that you can use if your product or your service relates to this. Now, networking and events, there are people that just use networking and events and they follow up with the people, because how many of you have been to networking events that you go and you get so many business cards that all of a sudden you forgot you even had them, right? So it's not just about going to events and sharing what you do and what is your service and what is your product, but following up. So this is really the secret sauce. Finding the lead source, and I'm giving you a lot of different types of lead sources, but following up is the number one key that's going to really get you to get clients and to get customers. Until they tell you to go away, you keep messaging them, you keep calling them. If they don't answer, you text them. And it might sound like, oh my God, this is a little bit too much, and it's not. Until they tell you to go away, you keep following up with them. And that's the one thing. This is part of the invisible funnel that you are building. So right now we're picking what is our main lead source. And I've already given you a few. We're gonna keep going. The main lead source, for example, for content marketing can be blogging, SEO, YouTube tutorials, product demonstrations, podcast guesting, webinars, free challenges. So all of these, they have to do with putting yourself out there and reaching out to people. So if you have something with SEO and you're doing YouTube tutorials, there are people that are always messaging and putting comments out there. So you reach out to those people. So what is the number one common thing here? The follow-up, right? The process of getting your clients to come to you, it's different. But the number one thing is always the follow-up and creating that connection that you want to have with your clients and your customers. Another one is cold outreach. And again, with this, it's the same thing, like cold email, cold calling, direct mail, and even going to like a retail buyer pitches. Like you want to go out there, and again, you are putting yourself out there so that they can come to you and you can come to them, and creating this connection and this relationship. So that's number one. That's number one, and that's the key. And then following up. So the one thing that you're doing is finding the right lead source and then following up. Okay. Now let's keep going because there's a ton more of options. Partnerships and collaboration. So these are great because you can do, they call them JVs or joint ventures. They also call them influencer marketing or affiliate programs. So I'm going to give you some examples. Let's say you sell something to women in their 40s. It can be clothes, it can be coaching, it can be anything that like things for like parental advice, things like that. Well, there's a lot of people that have that same market of 40-year-old women. So any of the people that I have mentioned can get together and do a joint venture, um, so that they can collaborate, and because they have the same target market. So then you would do a webinar, or you would do some type of offer, or you would send an email to your list, or there's a lot of ways that you can collaborate with each other, because you share the same people, and that's the key. So when you have partnerships and collaborations, you're working together, and of course you're going to get commissions based on whatever the other person sold if you're doing a JV partnership. But it's also going to allow you to increase your client size and your email list, because you're able to get more people interested in what you have to sell. So this works really well. A lot of influencers do this. Like, for example, if you have an influencer that you really love and you want to you want to pitch something to them, they're happy to do it unless it's going to fit their agenda. Like, I don't know if you guys know Mr. Beast. He's one of the most watched YouTube influencers out there. I think he has the most views ever on YouTube. He sells this chocolate, and he said, I don't want sponsors on my videos because I lose money. Because if I can promote my own products, then it doesn't make sense for me. So even if this, even if the sponsorships pay millions of dollars, he loses money by having sponsors, and they don't all fit what he has to sell, which he sells chocolate right now, and he has a lot of other brands, obviously, but he wants to promote his own products. So you need to go to someone that is going to make sense for what you're going to sell. There's also, and we're going to keep going, there's a lot more community strategies. Those community strategies are, for example, being very active on Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, niche forums, Slack, Discord communities. A lot of people overlook this, especially the local markets. And I don't know about you guys, but in my city, there's like 5 or 10 Facebook groups of our own city. So like, people are always asking things about, a park, or, something about kids and parents, but there's a lot of local locations that, whether they're restaurants, whether they're like brick and mortar stores or whatever, that they don't even do a good job of putting themselves out there in these types of Facebook groups. So even doing that one thing will allow you to stand out. Like, for example, answering questions. If you see a question about, for example, I work with a soccer, one of my clients is a soccer facility where they do classes for kids. So, I told the owner, why are you not on these Facebook groups for the city? Because people are always asking questions about extracurricular activities for my kids. What do you suggest I take them? What are some of the things that I could do? And this is a very underlooked resource that it's out there. By putting yourself out there saying, hey, listen, I have this soccer facility, would love to have you for a free class. Boom. It's not just that one person that's going to come. It's going to be a lot more, because they're seeing it there and they're asking for advice. So if you notice, a lot of this lead sources is not you putting yourself out there necessarily. I mean, some of them are, but most of them are just being in the right places at the same time, right? Now, there's a few more. So referral programs. One of the best ways to grow is through referrals. And it doesn't have to be somebody who went through your program, or they buy your product or your service. It can be people that just know you. I attend a lot of networking meetings, and I have one of my best referral partners are, we give people, and we make a lot of connections all the time, because we just like what we have to offer. And it's very hard to find good people that do a really good job. So if you are the type of person that really likes to make connections, a lot of times when you make a connection for someone, a lot of times it's returned in your favor as well. So if you partner with people, that helps out a lot as well. So our referral program, being able to give back to the people that are introducing you, is a great way. And again, all of this is a way to bring in the leads, to talk to people, to make the connection. But the number one thing is what? Making the follow-ups and continuing the conversation, okay? All right. We're almost done, I promise. So how do you pick your main lead source, and how to pick the one that really matches your market and offers the highest chance of result very quickly? Well, I'm gonna tell you how. You really want to focus on something that is going to have a compound effect of like focus. It's going to give you more speed. It's going to give you better results. And it's going to be better, easier to optimize. Okay. And I'm going to give you an example of how that's going to work. Okay. So how can both services and like products and services see faster sales by owning that one lead source first? And I'm going to explain by showing you a case study. So there's a service provider who was really struggling with getting clients, okay? And she relied on one client more than anybody else. So she wasn't really looking actively for clients. She just talked to people, did networking events, and that wasn't really going well. Was relying too much on referrals without going out and asking referrals how they are doing. So when you do referrals, it's not just waiting for people to refer you. You actually have to reach out to your best referral partners, right? So that was one of the things that this person wasn't doing well. So this person focused more on arm's reach, which is basically Upwork, Fiverr, that kind of stuff in one platform. And now is 50% of the current income. And why did that happen? Well, that happened because it was focused on that one thing, because it was the most important one. And now, instead of going out to find clients, the clients are coming to that person. So that's just one example of how to successfully focus on that one thing and adding this invisible funnel so that you can actually focus more on getting the leads. Okay, now there's another one that I want to give you an example for. Is a product brand that uses a water filtration system. So this is a very difficult thing to sell, right? Because you have to go to people's houses and install the water filtration system. And instead of focusing on all of these other things like ads that are, he burned a lot of money on ads as opposed to just focusing on things that actually worked. So because this is a service, right? That, well, it's kind of like a product, kind of both, that relies a lot on, health, right? So people who are looking for a water filtration device and filtration systems, they're looking more for people that are interested in improving their quality of life. So like wellness, health brands, things like that. So what he did is he went to a lot of influencers that are talking about, different things with wellness, whether it's specifically to his brand, it didn't really matter. And that's 90% of his sales. And right now, that's one of my clients that we're trying to switch that because he's doing that really, really well. But right now it's time for him to think, that he mastered the one thing that he needed to focus. The funnel works very well for him. He has landing pages for all of the influencers, so we know where they came from. Instead of spending the money on advertising, he's spending the money on the commissions that he's giving his influencers, and they're based on performance. They're not based on putting the ads out there and waiting to see if the money is going to come back to them. So this little thing is made all the difference in his business, because if people buy from influencers that they love and they trust, then the sale becomes a lot easier. So he's not wasting his money on ads that are getting nowhere. He's spending his money in good places that are taking him from someone who, somebody who loves the influencer to be able to then install this water filtration device. It also requires a lot of education. So that's why the ads not necessarily worked for him, because he was probably not doing a good job explaining and what does that even mean, right? A water filtration device, what I can just buy a filter and that's it, right? No, this is a huge undertaking. So that's why this influencer marketing was really helping him to become even bigger, right? So once your main lead source is producing contacts, so you might have to try different styles for like 30 days to see if it works and to see if it's something that makes you comfortable. Cold calling is one of the hardest things to do, but it works. But can you do that sustainably for years and years to come? Probably not, right? Maybe in the beginning so that you can master that one skill, and then you can see if you have time and bandwidth truly to be able to move outside of your one skill. Now, I do want to say that this is just at the beginning, right? And if you're not producing a lot of sales, then you want to narrow down your system so that it improves and it's optimized. I don't like to rely on just one thing forever. This is just to get you to start and make sure that you can master the one skill so that then you can move on to the second one. Because like I said, relying on one thing, if that thing breaks, then obviously you have nowhere to go, right? Like if you're doing a lot of in-person events and then COVID hits, right? What do you do, right? You have to switch. And before you get to do that, having that secondary way of getting clients and be able to sell your stuff is not going to compromise your tasks. So once your main lead source is producing the contacts, the leads, everything, you definitely want to do the follow-up. And this applies to everything. First, you want to connect with them, to acknowledge, because as I mentioned, I gave you a whole bunch of stuff in a whole bunch of ways to bring in leads. We've gone over it. We don't have any issues with that. We are gonna connect with people. So what do you do after you're having this conversation, right? Well, the first touch point is to acknowledge and connect. You really want to make sure that you're talking to people and not as clients, not as prospects, not as buy my thing, I'm over here. Connect with them, get to know them better. If it's something that you sell that you don't need to talk to them, that's okay. Just make sure, like for example, a program or a course or something like that. That's okay. You can do this via email, right? To get to know them better. Like if they can reply to your email or give you a comment in a social media post or something like that. You definitely want to acknowledge them and connect with them. Touch point number 2, you want to share a relevant win, a story or a testimonial. So a lot of times, when we're trying to buy something on Amazon, one of the first things that we do is we look at the reviews, right? We look at how many Google reviews when we're looking to maybe go to a restaurant or something. So you definitely want to share how incredible you are, but in a way that's going to make sense for you and you're not just selling all the time, okay? And then number 3, invite them to the next step or make a direct offer. So these are different types of touch points. It doesn't have to be 1, 2, 3. Maybe you acknowledge and connect for a few touch points, and then it's time for you to share something like a story, a win, or a testimonial. But the key is not to always push the sale and to show value and follow up, reminding them that you're there to help, is to establish that credibility and that trust. And once you've mastered that one skill, move to a second way of getting clients, as long as you don't compromise your tasks and as long as you have the bandwidth and the time to be able to do it. And so by doing that one thing, that's how you're really going to get clients and you're going to be so focused on your stuff. Now, how do you adapt this to your model? Well, you could do for services by doing nurture DMs, scheduling discovery calls or demonstration calls and things like that. And then when it comes to products, you can do retargeting emails, limited time offers, personalized with the recommendations. So, and there's other ways, obviously, to be able to do this, but it's all about building your follow-up system as well. Now, I don't know if we have any, I don't see any questions or anybody that has asked anything, but I'm just going to give you a few examples on what that would look like. And I'm just going to come up with maybe coaches or consultants or, things like that, that I can think of. Like, for example, a fitness coach. A lot of times, fitness coaches are struggling because they're really good at doing fitness and getting you in shape, but they don't know how to really reach out to people. So a fitness coach might be doing networking events and following up with people that said that they are looking to hire a fitness coach and then implementing the 3 touch points that we talked about. Or they can also do social media direct outreach with people that are posting things about, I went to the gym today, I feel so proud of myself, right? So it's all about looking out to really finding that person. Or they might partner with a dietitian. So people who are looking to get on a diet, a lot of times they're looking to improve their fitness and they can do JV partnerships that way. So they're going to pick just one and implement the 3-step process so that they can then build out their invisible funnel, okay? So that's an example. And I think we're running out of time, so I'm going to just keep going. But if you have questions, I can do another example to kind of show you what that looks like. So your action plan, okay? Choose your one main lead source. There's the ones I mentioned, and I'm sure there's more. So you want to choose your main lead source, commit to 30 days of consistent execution. So if it was 1 or 2 days and then you got tired of it, you have to see it through to see if it actually is going to work. A lot of people say, yeah, email marketing is dead, and it doesn't really work. Well, does it really not work? How long did you try it for? What types of emails did you send? Did you really do the research before you even started? There's a lot of things that you need to take into account in order to really understand that, okay? And add your 3-touch follow-up to your calendar. It's very difficult to know if things are working or not if you don't have this 3-step system and if you don't keep track of everything that you're doing. So like if I talk to Dr. Lambert today, then I need to follow up tomorrow. So I need to make sure that my CRM reminds me that I need to talk to him about the second touch point. If I don't do that, then things fall apart. So you need to make sure that you add things to your calendar, to your CRM, make sure that you're keeping track so that you can really make sure that you see things through. All right. So selling like crazy, it doesn't require doing it all. It requires doing the right thing consistently and following up. Okay. And I'm gonna answer any questions that you guys have. I want to go back to the class promise and read it again because this is really what we've talked about. So we've discovered how to stop scattering our energy across every marketing tactic that people tell us that works, and how to choose one high impact client or customer getting strategy that works for your business. So this is how you master it. This is how you build that invisible funnel that we've talked about, and how to use the right follow-up system to turn interest into consistent sales without needing to be everywhere and doing everything at the same time.